The Melting Pot by John Franks of Warners Bay 2282. Narrated by Lex Marinos. When I was 20, Melting Pot, as sung by Blue Mink, was a catchy, tuneful song advocating racial and ethnic diversity. Born in Guildford, a southwestern suburb of Sydney, I was introduced early to an ethnically diverse community. Half a dozen of the local shops were owned by what we called New Australians. 5 of the families in our small street were similarly described. In my family, we were never allowed to say the word dago, wog as being tantamount to a swear word. We lived only a few kilometres from the Villawood Migrant Hostel, and once I reached school age, a busload of children, mostly of migrants, arrived each day. I can't recall all the nationalities, and nor does it matter. We were all mixed in together, and, as far as I recall, treated the same. There was no ESL, English as a second language, or NESB, non-English speaking background, support. We all played and ate lunch together, and occasionally shared food. I made friends with some, and to this day communicate with George W., a Ukrainian. Those experiences were magnified when I moved to a single-sex high school in nearby Granville. Ethnic diversity was extended even further to include a boy of Chinese appearance who was just another one of us. We played rough games on a dirt playground, including branding and Red Rover. I'll never forget the sight of 2 Polish classmates, Waldi, a version of Walter, and Willy, short for Wilhelm, i.e., V versus V, chasing each other and pelting a ball, stick, or whatever was to hand at each other and laughing uproariously when they made a hit. About that time, I became very friendly with another Polish boy named Michael W. He was very clever, well-spoken without any accent, and very independent. Uncommonly, both his parents worked. On occasions, I walked 3 kilometres to his place to play. One day, I mentioned his family had an unusual car. Not a Holden, Ford, Morris, or Austin. We mates thought it so odd we felt sorry for him. I asked him what brand it was, and he replied, "They're popular in Europe. It's a Porsche." My first teaching post was to a country town with a significant Aboriginal population and a strong racist element in the white community. I had to adjust my thinking somewhat, but gradually I learned to navigate my way through the prejudices. However, I was no race crusader, and undoubtedly I could have been more outspoken. When I was posted back to Cabramatta West in Sydney, I experienced an explosion of multiculturalism, the new buzzword. The school had 2 packed migrant classes. The local high school was statistically the most diverse and multicultural school in Sydney. As Wikipedia asserts, Cabramatta was something of a melting pot. My next level of awakening was via a chance-in-a-lifetime meeting with a man who became my best friend for almost 20 years. Alistair, deceased, was the son of Scottish migrants who was able to explain in Scots English the difficulties of being different in school. He was dyslexic, but he was a brilliant thinker and acclaimed artist. Most recently, my appreciation of ethnic diversity has enriched my life through travel. In a moment of supreme optimism, Carolyn, my wife, and I decided to go to Turkey. We were so entranced by Istanbul, Gallipoli, and Turkey's historic Aegean coast that we returned twice to travel along the Black Sea coast to the Kurdish region, and within a stone's throw of Georgia, Armenia, Iran, and Syria. On one occasion, I had a 20-minute conversation with an Iranian man in full Arab regalia about football. On one trip overseas, I was caught sneaking back to my room with a bottle of wine by Eric, a Chinese-born Australian. In a prescient moment, I invited him and his wife Pauline to share the wine, a reciprocated arrangement whereby we alternated the cocktail hour between rooms for the remainder of the tour. Discussions with them led to an invitation for us to join them on a family tour of national parks in regional China later that same year. At first we declined, as we didn't want to intrude, and one holiday a year was our limit. Our curiosity and their encouragement got the better of us, and we realised it was an opportunity of a lifetime. So we accepted. It was brilliant. We even added Xi'an and Beijing on our own, cities not on the original itinerary. Other travel destinations included Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Estonia, Iceland, and Morocco. In Malta, I recognised half the shop owner surnames from my ethnically enriched school days. I know our lives and thinking have been augmented immeasurably by our contact and preparedness to embrace ethnically diverse experiences. It took a while, but I eventually realised that in the melting pot I was experiencing, people had the same ideals, wants and needs: family, food, shelter, work, creative interests, and so forth. Occasionally clashes occur with customs and points of view, but that can happen, with enlightenment, to all parties within the most cohesive of families and friendships. Now in my retirement in suburban Newcastle, I take pleasure in a simpler lifestyle that includes gardening in what one grandchild referred to as Pa's Forest, mouths of babes. I often consult with my Italian neighbours who have the best garden in the street. Giuseppe's English isn't great. We chat. We each sip a glass of red. By the third glass of wine, communication problems diminish considerably. And it all started with my parents in Guildford, New South Wales. The end.